Greg Durocher of the Cambridge, Ontario Chamber of Commerce. What event are you at there, Greg?
We're actually partnering with the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce, and we're doing a LeaderCast event with, I don't know whether anybody knows about Chick-fil-A LeaderCast, but it's a fantastic motivational event. Right now, Coach K from Duke University is speaking, and we do it live via satellite. As they do it in Atlanta, we get to see it right here in the Waterloo region, so it's great.
Has that been a successful event for your chamber?
It's grown from the first year we did 100 people, the second year about 175, and we're at probably 300 now.
Do you make money from it, or is it a service?
Oh yes, we'll probably make about $20,000 from it that we'll split with the Greater KW Chamber.
Very good. Congratulations on that. So what I really want to talk to you mostly about is you've been over in Doha. And I want you to explain exactly how to say it, because I think I butchered it a little bit there. But what you were over there for, and let's just go from there.
I had the distinct pleasure of being at the World Chamber Congress, which is hosted by the International Chamber of Commerce and the World Chambers Federation. And I was in Doha, Qatar. Which of course most people know as being in the Middle East. It's kind of down around the United Arab Emirates, the southern part of Saudi Arabia. And I gathered there with 1,500 chamber leaders and chamber volunteer leaders from around the world for a fantastic event of networking, of learning, of understanding maybe better the business community around the world. And of course our own Mick Fleming from ACCE was there, and he's kind of the one that kind of prodded me a little bit to make sure that I go. And I quite frankly think it doesn't matter the size of your chamber. It is probably one of the most valuable experiences you'll ever have as a leader of a Chamber of Commerce.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you there because your chamber was recognized by them in years past, or an event or something?
In 2010, we got the distinct honor of winning the best unconventional chamber project in the world with our Funny Money program, our high school financial literacy program with James Cunningham, the comedian. And we won that in Mexico City in 2011, I'm sorry. And so you're obligated as a past winner to participate in the judging. And it's all online, everything's done using technology today. And I participated in the judging, and then what I was going to do is just bypass the event itself and let what happens happen. But I think Mick Fleming really pointed out to me how important it was that, first of all, that I had the honor of winning. Our chamber had the honor of winning, and then have the honor of participating in the adjudication of future winners, and that, of course, he really wanted strong support for Casey Steinbacher and the Greater Durham Chambers project that was a finalist, and then said, you need to be there because the final presentation of the top 5, the judges' votes right there at the event account for half of the balloting. So it was a great experience. In spite of that prodding, I can guarantee you this: I will never need prodding again to go to the World Chambers Congress.
Fantastic! I'm looking forward to going myself. I know a lot of colleagues that have gone, and it's life-changing for your career. It changes your perspective on your chamber. You first of all feel very micro, because all of a sudden you're this little chamber of commerce in your part of the world, and you really see the complexity and the size and scope of the organization which we're keenly connected to in a global nature. And really what's very interesting is seeing how, doesn't matter where you are in this world, the business issues and the issues of a chamber of commerce are exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you're in Mumbai, India. The issues are exactly the same, the challenges are exactly the same, and we can learn from each other because, Europeans and Asians have tried different things to get over the hurdles of some of our challenges with relevancy. Relevancy was a big issue. Engaging youth was an even bigger issue at this year's World Congress. Fantastic. Well, share a couple of things that you learned, maybe Casey's, how did Casey do? And then also what things you brought back to your community? Well, first of all, I was very proud of Casey and her, incredibly bold and truly unconventional project. The project was SMOFfice, SM Office, and what she did was she engaged the international and national community of business entrepreneurship. And she went out and said, what we're going to do is we're going to offer free a 25 square foot office space in the busiest coffee shop in downtown Durham for the best new startup program from around the world to come into Durham, start their business, and see how it can succeed. She had submissions from all over the world, and oddly enough, two sisters from, they were living in England at the time, but always grew up in Durham, always wanted to come back and do business in Durham, so this was the opportunity that was presented. And I think, what a neat way of doing something, taking this busy coffee shop, and as we all know, because we preach this, networking is critical, developing relationships is key and fundamental to growing your business as well as your chamber. And having this office, a 25 square foot office in the corner of this busy little coffee shop where they could connect with people every single minute of every single day, I think was bold, unconventional, and certainly out of the box thinking, and I applaud Casey for what she did, and was very much a deserving winner. Now what you need to understand here, Frank, too, is that she was up against the Nuremberg Chamber of Commerce. The Nuremberg Chamber of Commerce has 116,000 members.
Oh, goodness. And it's a pretty good sized budget, I bet.
So so you can well imagine the amount of money that they had to invest in their project as opposed to what Casey had to invest in her project, and the outcomes, were magnificent with Casey's project. Nuremberg did a great job too, and they were certainly deserving to be there in the top 5. But in reality, how does this small little community chamber, with 11 or 1,200 members, compete against that chamber with 116,000 members and win? And it was a testament to Casey's dedication, commitment, and her staff, and the program itself.
I don't think there's a limit to creativity. Size isn't it, money isn't it. It's people's willingness to think outside the box. I don't like that term too much, but just to be open-minded, because everything is different today with technology and the change in the economy. We live in a new world compared to even just 5 years ago, don't you think?
You know what? I think you're exactly right, and I think in the chamber world, what really speaks to this whole relevancy and engagement issue is really about, our creativity internally and embracing ideas from each other and around the world and bringing them back and modifying them to meet your outcomes and expectations of your organization, and more particularly your members, and adapting it. And I think we have to be the most creative people on the planet today, because what we have to do is inspire that creativity from our members and from the business community and the entrepreneurs that are here. And gel those new ideas forward and new, ways of doing business, because, small SMEs need to think global, and that's really kind of what I got out of that World Chambers Congress. I'm talking to business leaders from around the world that are saying, do you have small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses that are doing this or doing that? We need to tap into that accessibility. We need to tap into their expertise, and we'd love to communicate with them and talk to them. Even if they're not export ready, we'll help them get export ready. So, it's a fantastic world out there from our perspective. We have over 12,000 chambers of commerce in the world, that every single one of us as chamber leaders have a direct connection to them through the World Chamber Federation. And Anthony Parks, I've invited to our Facebook group that you administer, Frank. And I'd love to see Anthony. I hope he does join the Facebook family, because his expertise, his knowledge, his connections around the world will do nothing but enhance what we do in our own little communities.
I think it's pretty amazing now on our Facebook group that we have people from Europe, from Canada, on the United States. Brian Cleary's from Ireland. We got several from New Zealand now. It's becoming quite a small world separated by one pixel, one digit of separation.
Well, exactly. The New Zealand folks, of course, came as a result of me, introducing myself to John Christie, who is the president and CEO of the Otago Chamber of Commerce in New Zealand, at the World Chambers Congress. I told him, you have to get on this group. We need to have your input, as well as you'll benefit from our input as well, and an exchange of ideas. And he not only put himself on, but he's also got one of his directors on as well. And it's such a huge advantage we have of being able now with technology to be connected like this. You're in the Portland area. I'm all the way on the other side of the continent practically, and we can do these things and communicate best practices and good ideas and share the values of what we implement in our communities. And we're just going to create a better, more vibrant, more prosperous world together. But we can't do it alone. We need to do it together. And I think, I was thinking about this the other day. In fact, I started a post on the Facebook group, but I stopped and I thought, I'm going to have this chance to talk to you today and put it out on video. I think every single Chamber of Commerce, no matter how big you are, you need to start budgeting a provision to go to the World Chambers Congress. Yeah. And it cost me to go to Doha, Qatar. It cost me all in Congress fee, money while I was there, as well as the travel costs and the hotel, less than $3,000. It was about $2,800. And if every single chamber could start budgeting $1,500 or $1,700 a year, this only happens every 2 years. Oh. And every single small chamber, no matter how small you are, you can afford to budget $1,500 or $1,700, and the value you will bring back to your members, the contacts that you can, international contacts you can bring back to your members, is just, well, you simply can't put that price tag. In fact, some of the smaller chambers out there, they could go to a large corporate member of theirs and probably get that covered, and because they'll make contacts for those people to engage with.
What you say there brings up the quote that I've heard and I found out to be true, that an idea or a mind expanded by a new idea never goes back to its same small thinking. But we have to be exposed to a new idea. And a lot of chambers think small. They're real community focused. They think that, we're a small chamber, I couldn't afford that. They need to do what you did, decide I'm just going to go. And once they're there, they might not think they're so small anymore when they get back. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, the real value proposition from a chamber leader's perspective is there's no question we have to focus a ton of attention on our membership and on our community, because we're the heartbeat of that community. We're the four pillars of our community within our organization. But at the same time, we need to take that responsibility as well to go out and bring in. Probably one of the biggest things that we hear about from some of these larger companies in our communities that we struggle to try and get on as a member is, well, I'm not interested in networking. I don't have any local customers or consumers. It doesn't matter to me. I do everything internationally. Well, if you can have a piece or that element within your Chamber of Commerce that is internationally connected, and that's through the World Chamber Federation or through going out beyond your borders, I think you bring real value back to them, and you can demonstrate to them that just because you're a local, community-minded Chamber of Commerce, you can have a perspective on the world as well, and you can develop contacts. I now have contacts on every continent. Right. That I know that if I send an email to them and say, I've got a friend or I've got a member that wants to do business in your area, can you give them some guidance and some help? I know they will respond right away. In fact, I did that. I came back from Doha, and of course, I had a great conversation with Casey while I was there. I actually ended up having a meeting in my own chamber with a member who says to me, we're thinking about expanding our operation from here to North Carolina. And I said, North Carolina? You got to be kidding me. Yeah, and we're thinking about in the Durham area. I said, oh my gosh, that's the most coincidental thing I think that's ever happened to me. I got on my email right away, and I sent Casey an email and electronically introduced them. And this individual is now flying down probably in the next couple of weeks to meet with Casey and her team and talk about opening up a business in North Carolina. And that's, I guess the subject matter of my email to Casey was Canadians are helping Americans. Here.
Well, earlier you mentioned, and I want to get back to it, you mentioned we were talking about change in chambers and how we have to adapt and innovate. And then you also mentioned that the World Chamber Conference was talking about generational issues. So we've had a lot of discussions about that. Did you learn anything new or any new insights about, it's a worldwide phenomena from what I understand. A lot of countries are going through the same cycle.
Well, you've got, we had some really interesting conversations because you take a country like Spain, over 50% of their youth under 30 are unemployed. They have monumental issues with engaging youth in jobs, just let alone business itself. So we had a number of speakers. We had one speaker actually, an international retailer, Marks and Spencer, who is all over the world. We had the president and the CEO speak, and he talked about in his peer group, he's really trying to change the culture of industry and business and saying, what we have to do is we have to be that bridge for youth to engage and get involved with the business community. And it's our responsibility to go out and do that. And he talked about several things that they, as a company globally, are doing to engage youth, where they're making strategic alliances with colleges and universities and high schools in all of the areas that they're in to bring co-op students in, engage them in their workplace, show them different opportunities within the company to hopefully, find that young, bright individual that can come in and make change in their organization as well. What I really understood is, we talk about it all the time about it's the chamber. We gotta be bringing youth onto our boards. We gotta be engaging youth. We gotta be getting youth membership. Yes, we do. But the problem is the youth, they're not in those management and decision-making positions yet in droves. They're coming up through the ranks, but we still have to engage with the Generation X and the baby boomers to get them to be members. But once we get them as members, we need to engage their Generation Ys that are there, and we got to pull them in. And I really think that what I got out of this conference was, and hearing businesses talking about the youth engagement, they're really talking about this being a social responsibility thing from a corporate perspective. So it's not just chambers of commerce that have the burden of trying to engage youth. It's business as well needs to engage youth. They need to bring in youth, and they need youth to understand what they do, how they do it, and what's available for them to do in the future.
Very interesting. The chambers really have a role to play in the future of this world, don't we?
Oh, there's no question about it. And I think just the matter that the president and CEO from Marks and Spencer, we also had the president and CEO from Atlantis come and speak to us. They've just built a wonderful new $1.2 or $1.3 billion Atlantis in Dubai. He came and talked about how engaging in the youth is important and critical and strategic for him. How chambers, and especially in his perspective, the World Chambers, plays a real strong role in connecting them throughout the community, or different communities. And I think, I think from that perspective, we also talked about a lot about the differences in chambers. And yes, we have the exact same problems, but when you see the Nuremberg Chamber has 116,000 members plus, how did they get that big? Well, they got that big because it's a public law institution. It means if you want to do business in the Nuremberg area, you gotta be a member of the Chamber of Commerce because they perform a business function. Well, in spite of that, they still have the exact same challenges, because one of the most important things for those chambers is non-dues revenue.
Interesting.
And look at it and say, geez, I'd love to have the revenue from 116,000 members, but the fact of the matter is those revenues, the amount of the membership is regulated by government. There's not a lot of reserve in there. Most of it is highly intensive labor that they have to pay for at that. So a big part of their operation still needs the non-dues revenue to continue. But hearing some of them and what they're doing is just it's amazing, and it's very similar in operation, but the ideas can be very, very different.
Interesting. If somebody wants to give you a call or follow up with you, give me your contact information.
Absolutely. And of course, my email is Greg, Greg, at CambridgeChamber, all one word, .com. And you can direct dial me at area code 519-622-6543. And I'd love to talk to anybody. I would really, I think of Calvin, young Calvin struggling there with 100 or so members. I would love to be able to encourage him to go to his board and say, this old guy from Ontario, Greg Durocher, says to me, I got to go to the next World Chamber Congress in 2015 in Torino, and we got to set aside $1,500 or $1,600 a year so that I can do that in 2015. Because a young guy like him, who's going to be leading a Chamber of Commerce for many, many years, he needs to get into the global framework of Chambers of Commerce right now. So certainly I hope Calvin watches this video and goes to his board. And if he wants me, I'll maybe even come out there and talk to his board if he wants, and encourage them that they need to, they've got what a lot of Chambers of Commerce would love to have: a young, enthusiastic leader that's going to be, a superstar leader someday in the chamber movement. There's no question about it. He's a great guy, and I would love to see him on the world stage as well, because I think it would only benefit his Chamber of Commerce and him personally.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's a great offer, and I'm going to make sure he sees this video. And thank you so much for taking time out of your leader cast there, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to get back in there because Condoleezza Rice is coming up very soon, so fantastic. I heard she's very good.
All right.
Thank you.